I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents.
Getting educated about one of the world's deadliest diseases, HIV.
HIV/AIDS is a problem not just in our community here, it's a problem across the board.
And how the church is helping in that fight.
People are unaware, really, that we still are dealing with a pandemic. We're still unaware that there's 100,000 people in the New York City area living with AIDS.
Plus, an award-winning Catholic school principal shares her story.
You not only play principal, you play social worker, you play mommy, you play confessor sometimes too.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us this Thursday. It is so widespread that the World Health Organization classifies it as a pandemic. We're talking about HIV, the deadly virus that leads to AIDS.
And the numbers are staggering. According to Catholic Relief Services, more than 7,000 people a day become infected. But today, a possible breakthrough that could change those numbers. It's an experimental vaccine that's shown some success in preventing HIV infections.
The study was conducted in Thailand using an HIV strain common to that area. It cut the risk of infection by almost 1/3. Closer to home, though, another battle is being waged to educate people about the virus. Last night, we sent our cameras to an HIV/AIDS information forum at Holy Cross Parish in East Flatbush. It's an area that has been hit especially hard by the crisis, as one of the priests there explains.
From the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, since 2004, the rate for HIV and AIDS in Brooklyn, it is very high among the blacks and the Hispanics. And from Brooklyn itself, we have, they said about 73% of the blacks in Brooklyn are affected. And they said not just here, but however, the parts that are mostly affected, that's Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights as well. And Flatbush here came about the fourth in line. Flatbush and then Park Slope, and then Williamsburg. In the community here, as a whole, people always see themselves as private. And health matters is their problem. It's not a concern for the public to find out or to know. And because of this, if a person knows that so-and-so has AIDS or HIV, then automatically that person is pushed aside. It remains a taboo for the community. And even when you speak about that, and people are afraid, even when we try to educate them. I remember when I was not even a priest, as a seminarian, I hosted a talk at St. Jerome for the youth. And I invited a doctor to come and speak to them with regard to AIDS, but still they asked questions, but certainly there was some reluctance on the part of the people to ask questions. The church is concerned. The church is concerned not just with the welfare of the Christian, not just the well-being of that person's spiritual journey, but at the same time, the church is concerned about the well-being of the person as a whole. And the church has been doing lots of work through Catholic Charity and through Migration Office as well. And the U.S. Catholic bishops, they try their best to reach out to dioceses and ask the ordinaries to have a team or to have some type of committee to reach out in terms of health need of the diocese.
We decided to have this event because it's good for the Haitian community to know what Catholic Relief Services is doing for their people in Haiti. We do with everybody, not only certain communities, but in this case Haiti, because we know that in the Diocese of Brooklyn we have a very large number of immigrants from Haiti in general, and every time we have an event to bring in information on health or any other immigrants' rights, I am not sure why people are not showing up. We always announce it in different parishes, in different ways, But my concern now is there's no answer why they're not coming. Is this something that we're giving out for free, information for free for their own benefit? People just don't respond as we would like to.
The best answer or the best solution to the HIV/AIDS, the Catholic Church stand is very clear: abstinence. Because with abstinence, a person is definitely 100% sure that he or she will not be affected. When the science is, when people are trying to use preservative, one way or another, it's not 100% sure. But that which is 100% sure is abstinence. HIV/AIDS is a problem not just in our community here, not just for blacks, not just for Hispanics, not just for whites. It's a problem across the board. It's a problem for everybody worldwide. But certainly we are doing our best to slow it down and to teach our people, our Christians, and especially our young people, so that they can be aware of what can happen if they're not cautious, if they're not being given the necessary information concerning the AIDS and HIV.
Later on, we'll have more on the fight against this deadly disease.
We'll actually look at how Catholic Charities is reaching out to people in our community.
But stay tuned, there's more currents straight ahead. A warning cry about the dangers of a nuclear Iran. We'll have that and the rest of the day's headlines.
And the Pope gets set to hit the road and make a little history. We'll tell you where he's going. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up later, emphasizing the Catholic in Catholic education. We'll hear from a local principal.
But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Iran cannot obtain nuclear weapons. That's stern warning to Congress from some Christian leaders. A group of nearly 50 Christian leaders sent a letter to Capitol Hill ahead of Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's speech to the United Nations. This letter calls Iran the world's most dangerous regime and says the country obtaining nuclear weapons would be something that the world cannot allow. Among the signers of that letter, Evangelist Pat Robertson and Southern Baptist Convention President Johnny Hunt. New census data about marriage and divorce shows the number of married people in the U.S. is on the rise for the first time in a decade. The number of married people in the country was up by 6 million last year, but the numbers are kind of a mixed bag. The number of unmarried people continues to climb. The unmarried now make up about 1/3 of the U.S. population over the age of 15. The number of divorced people was also up slightly last year.
Well, now it's official. The governor of Massachusetts has picked former Democratic Party chairman Paul Kirk to replace Ted Kennedy in the Senate. Kirk, a Catholic, served on Kennedy's staff for 8 years during the 60s and 70s. The Kennedy family had hoped Kirk would get the nod, as the move allows Democrats to maintain a 60th U.S. Senate vote needed to pass health care reform. Looks like the Pope will head north next year, visiting Great Britain in a first-of-its-kind state visit. While details are still being worked out, Pope Benedict XVI is said to be slated to go in September, having been invited by British Prime Minister Gordon Brown. The Archbishop of Westminster, head of the Bishops' Conference of England and Wales, has expressed excitement about the upcoming trip, which will likely coincide with the beatification of Cardinal John Henry Newman. Before then, though, Pope Benedict has a couple of other visits planned. This weekend, he'll visit the Czech Republic, and next spring, a visit to a place that holds a special place in the heart of pilgrims.
Benedict XVI will travel to Fatima and other cities in Portugal next May. It's expected that he will celebrate a Mass in the Shrine of Fatima on the 13th of the month, 93 years after the first apparition of the Virgin Mary to the 3 peasant children, Jacinta, Lucia, and Francisco. As prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, Cardinal Ratzinger wrote the theological commentary that went along with the fourth secret. This would be the 5th time the Pope visits Fatima's shrine. Paul VI was the first Pope to go there in 1967. John Paul II made the trip on 3 occasions, in 1982, 1991, and in the year 2000. He always believed the Virgin of Fatima saved him when his life was threatened on May 13, 1981, the Feast of the Virgin of Fatima.
And we will have more on the Pope's upcoming trip to the Czech Republic tomorrow.
Stay tuned. When Currents returns, we'll take a look at what Catholic Charities is doing to stem the tide of HIV. Welcome back to Currents. Earlier we heard about a groundbreaking vaccine that's showing some success in preventing HIV infections. At a press conference in Thailand, researchers announced the vaccine cut the risk of infection by about 31%. One researcher said it's the first evidence that we can have a safe and effective vaccine. But one doctor cautioned it's not the end of the road. By one estimate, 2 million people worldwide died of AIDS in 2007. Well, for a closer look at local efforts to fight this virus, we're now joined by Richard Slizeski. He's clinical manager of Catholic Charities HIV Housing. Hello, Mr. Slizeski. How are you, sir?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here on Currents today. We really appreciate it. First of all, tell me a little bit about what you do and where you come from.
Okay. Well, I'm not a native New Yorker, as you can probably hear in the voice.
Neither am I, so you know.
From Colorado originally, but I've been here for a good 10 years now. And basically, I work at Catholic Charities, and I am a clinical manager in a residential program for those living with AIDS.
Okay, great. Now, tell me a little bit about the Church's response, first of all, to folks with HIV and AIDS, and how that may have changed over the years.
Okay, well, you know, it has a long history. I think the Diocese of Brooklyn can be very proud that it was back in 1993 that they started a program called Circle of Hope. And that program basically was to respond. And if you think about the timeline of things, 1993 was pretty early on in terms of responding. Right. And so they took that on, Catholic Charities being really the social ministry of the church, you know, going out there, and they started working with people. And uniquely too, they started working with families in terms of trying to do it. And basically, Catholic Charities, but as the city, as many people know, when you can get people into stable housing situations and can give them supportive services, case management we call it, you know, you can kind of get them along the lines of the things that they need, things go much better. Right. Things go much better. And so really Catholic Charities has been doing that since 1993 is where it kind of started. And that's at a level. When I talk about the Church's response, I'm also involved in a program that started off as a parish ministry. Right. And, you know, it's very exciting to see when people, they ran a shelter in their parish, you know, and they started seeing back in the early 90s very sick people and finding out why. And this parish response was really to found a house. And it was a ministry at that time, really as a hospice, as basically a ministry to the dying. Yeah. And thank God we're dealing with a whole different era now in terms of the drugs that are out. You were just talking about this exciting vaccine. Everyone's excited about that.
Absolutely.
But you know, with drugs as they are, now the house still is there to serve, but it's under the auspices of Catholic Charities. Yeah. And really the focus of it is not so much a ministry to the dying. You used to talk about dying with dignity. Yeah. But now it's really about living with dignity.
There you go. Well, and that is one thing that kind of leads into another point that I wanted to bring up, was that earlier on in the show we saw a story about this parish that had sort of, I guess, this educational event just to let people know about what's going on with HIV and AIDS. And particularly in one part of the world, but also here as well. And the turnout was pretty low for that. Yeah. Is that sort of a pattern that we've been seeing, and why would you say that is? Or is the stigma that we have seen with folks with HIV and AIDS, is that still there to a great extent, or do people see people living longer now with HIV, thanks to drugs that are out there that you were talking about? do people see that and go, well, I don't have to worry about this so much?
I think it's yes to both of those things. Just as I see it, I think people are unaware, really, that we still are dealing with a pandemic. We're still unaware that there's 100,000 people in the New York City area living with AIDS, living with HIV. And so I don't think it necessarily impacts them. On one hand, they hear about that and they think, oh, that's something that was back in the 80s or the 90s. No, it's very much still with us. The other piece, and I think it has to do, I know the particular parish you're talking about, and you know, when you're dealing with immigrant populations, which we often do in Catholic parishes all around, the stigma is still very strong. Yeah. Still very strong. And I think the willingness to kind of come out and to deal and to talk about a very personal issue that impacts their own families, you know, it's a difficult one, but it's an important one to deal with as well.
Yeah, you have to face it. And, you know, anonymity, I think, is maybe another thing that people might be concerned about as well. Am I going to be able to remain anonymous? How's this going to affect me in my life? Getting a job or anything else, too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, what resources are out there for folks to go? I mean, I know that you work with Catholic Charities, and Catholic Charities has a branch that reaches out to folks with HIV/AIDS. Tell me a little about that resource that's out there.
Okay, well, we have several different programs, and they're based on housing, and they're based on case management needs, specifically, and dealing with the families of the folks that we're dealing with. But as far as those resources, getting to them, you know, the great thing about Catholic Charities is you could really go in at any particular place. You could go to one of our community centers, or you could go just to find information. And as soon as this is obviously what we're dealing with, they would contact us. Right. And then we would talk, you know, as far as dealing with families, dealing as far as resources. But we do have, as I mentioned, the whole case management piece and the housing, if that's a need. Right. But there's other areas usually involved with this. It gets into wider things like drug use, or it deals with alcoholism, or it deals with other things, or psychological issues. Right. And so we have mental health clinics, we have different things. We have a nice network of dealing with
and all those.
All in a way where you're really dealing with the whole person.
Right, right. Yeah. Okay, well, very good. Well, we'll have to leave it there because our time has come and gone, but Richard Slizewski, thank you so much. If I can butcher your name any more than that. Richard Slizewski, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Very good.
Stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up straight ahead.
Teach your children well. A Catholic school principal tells us how she does it.
The central reason that this school is here is to provide a Catholic education in this community.
Well, we've been looking at education over the last few weeks, and tonight we want you to meet someone who's dedicated her life to Catholic schools in our area.
Diane Hester-Hagen was for many years a teacher on Staten Island, and now she's in charge of an entire school. The Archdiocese of New York recently honored her for her work, and tonight she tells her story here as our eyewitness.
You not only play principal, you play social worker, you play mommy, you play confessor sometimes too. Sometimes you hear things you don't want to hear. The central reason that this school is here is to provide a Catholic education in this community. We try to hammer that point home. They can get an education anywhere, but our identity somehow got lost, and we really need to bring that back to the forefront. And the kids have to be constantly reminded of why they're here. To me, faith is not only just, and your religion is not that you can just recite those prayers verbatim. Go out and live it. That is literally part of our curriculum service. It's not even just in religion class. It's in every aspect. The children are very giving, even at a young age. As they get older, It's more of a challenge to teach them about their faith because children today are a bit cynical, and they've experienced so much, and some of them have had losses and sad things happen to them in their households. So they get a little tougher. They get a bit of a shell. You know, I've had sadness in my own life. I lost my sister. I lost my sister-in-law, two very vibrant people at very young ages. My sister was a Catholic school principal. She was 12 years older than me. So she was quite a role model for me. So that was a huge void for me. The kids have been a part of that too. They say that that really stinks. Your sister was a young woman, or, you know, your sister-in-law was very young when she died. Aren't you mad at God? I'm very honest with the kids, and I've said to them, yeah, I'm sad, yeah, you know, I'm angry, but some things you can't explain, you know. It's a hard concept for a kid. Heck, it's a hard concept for an adult, so that's when you just have to have faith. It's that unexplained push inside of you that just keeps you going. My sister received the St. Elizabeth Seton Compassionate Educator Award. Unfortunately, she died the week before I went up and received it for her. But then this year that just passed, I found out from the Archdiocese that I received that award too. So that was a big thrill for me, and I just always loved her story and was inspired. Because it wasn't a difficult life, but you know, sometimes the courage is you get up every morning knowing that what's ahead of you is not a great day, not an easy day, and you just keep going, even when the days are cloudy.
And that is Diane Hesterhagen, our eyewitness. Very nice story.
Very nice story. You know, no matter what is happening, you just keep on going, and that's, I think, her life and her story that she told really emulates that.
So nice that she can relate that with the kids and talk about that with them, because then they can feel a little bit more connected to not always the great things in life.
Yeah. Well, she reminds me actually a bit of my sister, who is a teacher and has dedicated her life to education as well. And I get to see my family coming up this weekend.
Yes, you're headed to Atlanta tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be gone tomorrow. I'm headed down to Atlanta. I'll get to see my family, but I'll also, and friends as well. But I'm going down for the specific reason of there's an award ceremony there, and I'm actually nominated for a musical theater award, for a Metropolitan Atlanta Theater Award.
Very nice. You're going to bring it back on set once you get it?
Can
we all see it?
If I get it.
Yeah?
If I get it,
then I will. Do you have your elbow, wrist kind of down so you can wave to the fans?
Yes. Was that the princess wave?
Your acceptance speech. You have.
I haven't really worked on that.
No. Okay.
But I might have a list of names in my pocket, so I don't leave anybody out that I want to thank. But that's about it, probably.
Well, are you doing any work, also theater work here in New York?
Not yet. I would love to kind of do some things on the side there, but you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I love theater. I'm missing it. I'm missing singing, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, well, currents keep you busy for now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Now, coming up tomorrow, providing a safe environment for kids to learn in Catholic schools. We'll look at the woman who is spearheading that effort in this diocese.
We have that and much more tomorrow on Currents, and until then, remember, you can always watch us online. The address there is currentsny.net, and there you can see clips of the show and check out our blog, Riding the Wave.
Absolutely, and you can also follow us on Twitter. Tweet right along with us at twitter.com/currentsny and follow us to see what we're tweeting about. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.